Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome back. Today we are doing the skill assessment for file inclusion. The only reason I didn't add it into the video is the video was already like an hour and a half, so I tried to keep it to 2 parts. So if you're just here for the skill assessment, you're not wasting your time going through an hour and a half. I hope you watched the whole video previously because that's the actual content, but this will show you how to do this. This was actually a really fun skill assessment. I thought this skill assessment really did it justice. It didn't just simply kind of just do the basic stuff you did in here. Kind of made it a little bit more complex, which I liked because it's realistic. It's somewhat realistic. So first thing first, I have my Exegol box spun up here, and we are connected to the Hack the Box VPN because my Exegol box is always connected. I have a Hack the Box specific one, and it's always connected. So if you guys want me to do a full review of Exegol, let me know. I'm happy to do it. They actually gave me a free year to do videos with it, so I'm enjoying it so far. All right, let's go ahead and get into it. First things first, skill assessment. Here's the IP. It says assess the web application, use a variety of techniques to gain remote code execution, and find the flag. So it's basically a root to boot box, and here we go. So we'll open up Exegol. We'll open this up, and we'll say, nope, gotta actually, there's the flag if you're wondering. There we go. All right. And there we go. Okay. So we are in here, and what we have here is basically a just simple website. Now, this one actually caused me some snafus only because there's a few rabbit holes, and that's really what the whole point of the box is, right? Is there a pen test actually has a lot of rabbit holes too, because you're trying to figure stuff out. So one of the things that can make it easier for you is doing, if we can go right here, the automated scanning. Make sure you use something like FFUF and fuzz the site because it will save you dramatically in time. So first things first, we're looking for something with LFI. Okay, pretty easy, pretty self-explanatory, right? So first thing I did was actually go through and view the page source because I'm just looking for anything with LFI. And you can see I have API image.php. And right away I thought, okay, that's a little weird. Normally you wouldn't get that. So clicked on it, get rid of this source here. Check it out. Okay, can we do this, right? And if you guys can't see, I'm just putting a bunch of dots and saying Etsy password to just see if we can get the Etsy password list. And it says cannot be displayed because it contains errors. Okay, well, this is looking for an image, and you notice, so let's see if we curl it. So we'll go over here and we'll say curl and Etsy password. Okay, I got nothing. Let's see, curl. All right, let's see. And we're going to get into the rest of it. I'm just looking back. So I got nothing there. So what we do now, we use our handy dandy FFUF tool. So you can see here, we're actually going to go through and use FFUF. And let me get rid of, whoops. Let me get rid of all this. Had way too much in there. I don't know why it's like freaking out. It's not doing anything. All right, there we go. Okay, so we'll put this in here and get rid of. Okay, it's just auto-completing when I'm typing. That's why it's doing that. And we'll say P equals, and we'll say fuzz. That's where we want to fuzz it, right? So what we're doing here is we actually are using FFUF, and we're using the word list LFI jhaddix.txt. Most attack boxes have this on here, so go ahead and look for it. The URL, which is 94.237, all that stuff, and then the API /image.php. We got that from the source code, and that source code is saying Etsy password, blah, blah. So what I want to do is this will actually go through here and try and find, hey, is there any LFI that works? Now, you'll see how that works. So we hit enter, and you can see we're getting all these are coming back as good, right? But you notice the size says 3405. So the way I like to do this, and there's all kinds of different versions or different ways you can do this. FFUF has a thing that actually filters by size. I'm just going to literally say grep tac V for inverted, and I'm going to say 3405. So give me anything with, not 24, anything that doesn't have 3405 in it. And we hit enter, and you can see, okay, we got nothing. Perfect. All right, and oh, we've got some syntax errors there. You can see the / in the P, / in the PHP. There we go. Now try it. And that comes because I curled it. Okay, and you can see, got a bunch of them there. A lot of them are size 0, so that's not going to help me out. But let's just go to the top here. Okay, it looks like there's a lot of files here. And all it's doing is saying, hey, there's a 200 error or status code, got nothing back. Let's go ahead and do this Etsy password. Where did it go? There we go. Okay, let's just grab one of these Etsy passwords that's double quoted. And then bring it over here and say curl. And we'll say PHP. And then P equals. And we'll see if this gives us anything. Okay, and that worked. We got our Etsy password. So it looks like it's probably filtering out single quotes, or I mean single / and single dots. So just the old 4 dots and 2 slashes worked. We can read the Etsy password. Okay, so the good thing about this now is we actually have a way to read some files on here, because that's probably what we're going to have to do. And that's exactly what we're going to do next, which is read some files. So let's keep looking at the site. Go back to the page. Okay, and the 2 other places, if you look, why can't I scroll up? There we go. Is contact and apply. So contact.php and apply.php. Well, right away I noticed that we can upload a document. That's pretty much going to be a given that we're going to do that at some point if it's in here. But apply.php and contact.php, I want to go ahead and read those, because I want to make sure that, I can tell what's going on. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm actually going to read the contact.php file. So we can do this exact thing. The only difference is I change it to, and where was it at? What's the path for it? Apply.php. Okay, so we'll just say, see if we can just do, the problem is, where's it at, right? We could actually just do it like this. We could actually just go API, and I'm assuming it's in that same API image.php, and we could say contact.php and see if we can read that. Okay, we couldn't read that one, which is fine. So let's go ahead and look for the next one that we can read. And we know, let's see. We know if we read the contact.php, let's just see if we can read that in the root directory here, rather than it's just in the directory with it. No, okay. Let's now go back 1 or 2 and see if we can, let's see if we can do contact.php. Okay, nothing there. And we'll just keep going back 1 directory until we hopefully find it. Like I said, hopefully. Oh, I got 3 dots there. Whoops. There we go. Okay, so it's back 1 directory. And you can see we have image.php p equals, which is some, referencing something. We already figured that out. Okay. Okay, so we see this get region. Okay, so that means it's getting user input from the variable region. It's blocking out single quotes, and it's saying, hey, it's blocking out these periods too. So we can't use periods or single or forward slashes. I said single quotes. Okay. Otherwise, get it, right? So get the region. So region is a parameter we can use here on the contact page. So one thing you can do too, if you go over here, is you can actually use FFUF, and we can change this. And I'll show you that you can actually do this a couple ways. So we can go back here, get the address, put it in here, go back here, minimize that so you can see, go back here, and we can actually fuzz the page. And instead of, if we wouldn't have found it the way that we did, if we do this and see how it says 1771, we'll just say grep 1771, and we wait. And I know it's probably small for you guys. I have it split into 4s, but that's because I need to be able to show you guys everything going on. But if you wait, you should see their region popped up. So you can see region gives us something different. Therefore, we know that region is a parameter that we can actually access. We can also see that because we're actually looking at the source code right here. So we can see that it actually gets region from the user. So let's see what else we can find. And we see this image source a couple of times, which we've seen. That's just the obviously the reference to the image that we saw. But we do see the big thing, which is the fact that, hey, we can actually read the source, and then therefore we can use region, right? And it says if it includes /regions .region PHP, right? Okay, cool. So we get a little bit of it, but we can see the LFI vulnerability because we can compare it to right here when you go to it. Let's see. It usually gives us there you go, include, right? Include, like it's telling us there's vulnerabilities here. So perfect. We know that there is a vulnerability here. So now let's go ahead and read the image.php. So we'll say API image.php. I want to see if it has anything in it. Okay, and here we go. So here is the image.php. And you can see it's actually getting that P, which is what we actually use the image P equals. Okay. And it's replacing the period forward slash. So we actually got around that by using 4. We did that with the automated scanning to actually show us what it was, but we could have probably guessed that one. So right there, we can see the vulnerability in that one as well. Okay. And then we can go through and actually look. If you know typical web apps, right? We can just start you can even use like a dirbuster or gobuster here to guess the name of the thing, but we'll just say we'll just use application.php, but you can use, and I know this exists because obviously I've done this box before, but if you didn't know this, you could easily gobuster or dirbuster this, or you even use fuzzing, and you can see we get to read the file here, and you can see this is the actual application file, which we know exists because when you apply, it's going to be called something, right? And the application file, we're looking at it. So the application file, it says here, first name is post, first name, last name, email. Yep, makes sense. Files, temp name. Okay. File name, target files. Okay. So we see where the uploads go now. It goes into uploads. And then if you look, it MD5 hashes the file and names it that, and then moves the name or the MD5 file. So now we have the format of the file and where it goes, and we can read files, right? So right now we have a pretty good start. The problem's going to be, the problem's going to be now, okay, we know that there's uploads and that we can access them. They're right here, and we need the MD5 name. But the problem is going to be, once we access them, how do we get it to run the code, right? Well, this is where we have to, because we know that the LFI that we've used will read the file, but how do we get to execute? Well, let's try the region. So if we go over here, and we know that region, right, is a vulnerable one that we've already looked at, because we can go up here and let's see, we got the contact page, which actually shows it right here, region. So we know it's vulnerable. So if we use the LFI with region, right, and I'll show all this, but with region, and then reference a PHP file that we upload, because if you look, it actually already puts down here, whoops, if I can find it here. Yeah. And look at that. There's a location. Thanks, PHP. Okay. So really quickly, we know where it goes. We know the name of the file, and it actually is already setting us up for success. So what do? Well, just go over here and find whatever the PHP file is. The PHP reverse shell. I don't know, remember what page it's on, but it's on this one. There it is. Literally echo PHP, get command, all that right there. Copy that over. I've already done that. You can see if I type ls, shell.php is in here. Okay. So we already have the shell pretty easily, right? And the one thing is, we know that we can look at this right here, right? And at the contact page, which is up here, or the regions, excuse me, and we can see that it is actually getting rid of the / and the dots. And one thing you'll notice is, even if you do it this way with the / and the dots, you're still going to run into issues. The reason is, it's actually triggering something on the % as well. So you have to double encode it. This isn't that uncommon. All you got to do is go to something like CyberChef, and I'll pull it up here to show you guys. And double encoding literally just means put URL encode twice. You'll see the difference if I pause this one. You can see it says %2e, %2e. If you unpause it, it's %252e. And you may say, how does that happen? Because the % itself is %25 and then 2e. So it's just double encoding it. So it's basically saying, it's basically getting around their filters. You could theoretically do this, but you can see here that this one, I actually didn't go through all of the code and look where it's actually stripping that %. I didn't see it. If you guys see it, please comment. I just might have missed it. But I didn't see where it's stripping it. I just did this because I know it's something you can try, and I tried it and it worked. If you try to use FFUF, you won't get the response that has the double encoding either. Doesn't mean that you couldn't find it. I could just use a better word list with double encoding on it, right? That's all it's doing. But that was the configuration that I used. So if you're wondering how I got that, it was just, hey, nothing else was working. I was trying it. This was showing. If you actually go and do it on resource, you'll see that this actually will give you results, but they all come back the same size. There's nothing different about them. So you just kind of have to mess around. And this is a perfect example of where I think they did it intentionally. They set it up so that if you, no matter what, you have to know some manual process, or else you won't be able to do it. But I thought it was actually pretty clever, because it's something this is the problem I have with Hack the Box too. And I've talked about this before, but they didn't show it or talk about it. But people that have been doing this for a little while probably will tell you to try it. And they just don't, I don't know why they don't just show you everything you need. Why? Like it's tough, because it's like, you want people to research, but you also are like, hey, based on what we just showed you, do a skill assessment. But then they leave stuff out, and it's like, what are you leaving out, right? So that's where I get hung up on them sometimes, and I get frustrated, but I understand. So it is what it is. So let's go ahead and upload our shell. So first things first, let's just I used Bob and Bob and Bob. Okay. And then you just put in here shell.php. And again, where did I get the shell? I got it straight from their site. Upload it. Now here's where we know the naming convention, right? The naming convention they actually use is the MD5 hash of it. So we're just going to say, I'm already in here. The shell.php is right there. We're going to say MD5 sum. And you can see I've already done it. Shell.php. And we're just going to get this hash. And if you guys are wondering how it's auto-completing all my stuff, that's actually something Exegol does. I'm not really sure what I know some of it's based on history, some of it's based on, I guess, known commands. I'm not sure, but you can see here, we get the hash here, and that is of shell.php. The reason we need that hash is that's the naming convention that they're actually using. So if we'll just copy and paste this right here, just so we have it, not for any other reason, but then I have it. And then all we have to do is actually go to our website here. And we know contact.php exists, right? And then we saw if we put resource, right? Or region, I'm sorry. I've been saying resource, region, excuse me. I apologize if I've been saying resource. We say region equals, and we know we can put the actual path there and it will reference our shell.php. But we know, because if you do this, even if you put it in the FFUF, you're not going to get anything good back. At least not the word list I used. If you guys use something better, please drop the word list below. I used the default one that they gave us. But if you guys have one, let me know. So all we have to do is reference our path, right? And our path is the same path that it was. The difference is we have to double URL encode it. So what we do is we take our path of, and I'm trying to pull up, here we go, our path of the uploads, right? And we know it is uploads, and then our, copy it out here, hold on. Copy this, oh, probably already copied. Nope, not what I want. Copy. There we go. And then I can take that, put it here. Nope, still didn't do it. There we go. Copy, there we go. Uploads, right? And then once we get the uploads, we put our file, and then we say we want whatever command we want. So we say and cmd equals, and then in this case, I'm just going to use ls. Okay, and you can see here, I have it double encoded here, and you can see all of this comes through. You can see or command, blah, blah. You don't need to double encode everything, but you want to double encode, at least everything before the command equals ls. So cut that out, right? And there you go. So now we'll go ahead and copy, not copy that, copy this, copy, paste it, and we can say, hopefully it worked. We can say this, and then that is actually referencing our PHP upload that we did. So it should reference a shell, right? And we say and command equals, and in this case, we'll say ls. Could be anything you want it to be, but this is what I'm going to use, right? And look at that. Now we have API, apply, PHP, contact PHP, CSS, images, thanks.php, uploads. Okay, so that is the directory we're currently in. So what do? We say ls / that should give us the root directory. We now have command execution. There's our root directory. Here's our flag. So we copy that. And we say flag.txt. Well, you got to actually cat it, not ls it. And there you go. There's your flag. So how did all of that occur, right? If you guys weren't tracking, is we actually used the first image LFI to read how these existed. And I actually found it through the automated scanning, the resource, and I could have just used some techniques to basically enumerate that, which I did some scanning and stuff and was able to enumerate how to do it. But the hard part that I couldn't enumerate is what is the naming convention of the uploads? Because it's pretty typical, it's in the uploads folder, but what's the naming convention? They changed it to MD5 on purpose so you couldn't just reference shell.php. That's where I was stuck the longest. Is I knew where it was, or I knew what they wanted me to do, and I was trying to reference that shell.php and it wasn't finding it. And so I had to go back and read those files using the first LFI that we found in order to actually identify, like, what's the naming convention. And it's funny because I should have put 2 and 2 together, because if you look, the image whatever, I believe that's a hash, and I don't know that for sure, but the image.php, if you just go to, like, let's just go home here. No, I don't want all that. Okay, let's just go here. So like this, I bet that's the hash. And I didn't even like think about it, but maybe it's not, but it just seemed like an odd naming convention. So it would have made sense to put 2 and 2 together that, hey, they're storing the uploads as hashes, but I didn't even think about it. So then you just take your hash and you can read anything theoretically, right? I don't know if you can actually read anything because I don't know who we are. So if we say, who am I? Or probably www, but yep, there we go. And I can't believe I just got a notification. Okay, so I don't know if you guys heard that. My streaming setup still has the notifications on there. I have, this whole time I record on the same software. I've never had that happen. So thank you for the sub. I'm going to give a shout out to Sobrano Logo. Appreciate you. But yeah, so that's pretty much it, guys. The difficulty on this one was not the challenge. It's the double encoding. And the reason it's difficult is because they never showed it. That's why it's difficult. So if you're struggling, that's the only thing you're probably struggling with. You're probably stuck because you probably found this region. If you just did an automated scan, you found the region, because just one automated scan finds it. The hard part, because what I did initially is I just did contact.php and apply.php, and I just did the FFUF scans, and you probably found those. The problem is going to be you're not going to find the double URL encoding. That was just something that you just kind of have to do this long enough to know. And I'm not saying you can't learn it. I'm saying have like a mental or a physical checklist and go, okay, go through these, right? Run FFUF, run a scan. I did. It didn't find anything. Well, there's only, if you do the whole site enumeration, there's only 2 places really that LFI exists. Went back, read the files for the LFI, found what it's actually looking for, and confirmed what I thought. And I never saw where it said it was canceling out the percentage, but if you don't do the double URL encoding, you get an error. And so the error says like invalid character. So it's reading, and if you go back and read the file, it shows that error means it's detecting something. So try to double URL encode, and boom, there you go. Pretty simple, pretty easy. It's just that snafu will get you. So this is one of those things where you just have to play with it for a while. I mean, even this one, this box without the double URL encoding probably takes 45 minutes to solve. With the double URL encoding, it took me a couple hours. And I'm sure there's people that solve it way faster than that. But this specific part of it, the skill assessment, took a couple of hours. And so if you did it faster, please let me know. Let me know if you just have, because I'm not a full-time web app pen tester, so I don't have my like checklist is up to date, looking for LFI, do this, and this. And so a lot of it was just trial and error. So let me know what you guys think. Let me know if you guys learned something, and hope you guys have a great day. Thanks.